Linear functions. A function is a fancy name for a relationship between sets of numbers. In order to be a function, each input value can only have one output value. A linear function is a type of function that would make a line if it were graphed. That's where the name linear comes from. Remember the input-output tables like this one? This input-output table has a rule of add to. Let us try to graph this function from this input-output table. In this graph, for x equals 5, we will get y equals 7 as the rule is to add 2 to every number in input. Now, for x equals 10, we get y equals 12. Similarly, for x equals 1, we get y equals 3, and for x equals 6, we get y equals 8. Now, join these points to get the linear graph. We could write this relationship or function like this: y equals x plus 2. This statement works for every input-output in the table. Watch. We'll color each input red and each output green. 7 equals 5 plus 2. 12 equals 10 plus 2. 3 equals 1 plus 2. 8 equals 6 plus 2. A linear function can be written in different ways. 1. As an input-output table. 2. With words, such as, the output is always 2 more than the input. 3. With an equation, such as y equals x plus 2. 4. As a graph. When you're given a linear function, you can illustrate it by following these steps. 1. Determine the rule. 2. Write the rule as an equation. X is always the input, and Y is always the output. The equation will normally start with Y equals. 3. Prepare the input-output table. 4. Plot the graph using table. Examples. Find the rule and graph of the linear function from the following table. First, what is the rule? Each time the input is being multiplied by 10, so the rule is multiply by 10. Now, we must write this as an equation. Remember that x is the input and y is the output, and that the equation will normally start with y equals. So what does y, the output, equal? Well, it's always 10 times x, or 10 dot x. A raised dot can be used instead of the multiplication sign to mean multiplication. So, y equals 10 dot x. Now, we will plot the graph for the given linear function using the table. Since the rule is to multiply by x, every time y is 10 times of the value input for x. For x equals 2, y equals 20. For x equals 5, y equals 50. For x equals 7, y equals 70. For x equals 3, y equals 30. Now, join these points to get the linear graph. Here, we get the line for the function y equals 10x. When Veronica goes to the arcade, it always costs $5 to get in, plus whatever tokens she buys. Write an equation for this function in which the input, x, is the cost of her tokens, and the output, y, is her total cost. This time, we are writing an equation from a word problem. We're still going to follow the same steps. First, find the rule, then write the equation. What is the rule? Each time, no matter what she spends on tokens, she has to pay an extra $5 just to get in. So her total cost is always the cost of the tokens plus $5. The rule is add $5. We can just think of it as add 5 since we won't use the dollar sign in the equation. To write the function, we need to think what y, the output, equals. The output is her total cost, and her total cost equals the cost of the tokens plus $5. The cost of her tokens is x, the input, so the equation is y equals x plus 5. Let us make an input table for this linear function for some of the inputs. X equals 2, x equals 5, x equals 3, and x equals 1 as the input. As we know, the output is to add 5 to every input. We get the input-output table as. Now, we will plot the graph for this function. For x equals 2, we get y equals 7. For x equals 5, we get y equals 10. For x equals 3, we get y equals 8. For x equals 1, we get y equals 6. Now, joining all the 4 points on the graph, we again get a straight line. Let's recall what you have learned so far.